Backseas Musical Podcast.
Not that I would know what this feels like, but when you're in a band and your debut album sells 17 million copies and you win 2 Grammys out of 6 nominations, and one of those Grammys happens to be for the Best New Artist, it creates an expectation that repeatedly duplicating that success must be really easy. Except it's never easy, even when your follow-up records continue to sell millions of copies. And with the grind of writing and recording and touring, sometimes you need to step back, take a break so you can become reacquainted with the idea of living life like a normal human being. When Evanescence released their first album, Fallen, in 2003, they went from being a small little band from Little Rock, Arkansas, playing very big music to the entire planet. In a way, it's kind of like winning the lottery and being expected to win one more time and again every 3 years. At some point, that pace becomes a lot to ask. So in 2011, Evanescence would release their last album of new material for almost a full decade. But lead singer Amy Lee would spend the next few years writing her own material, recording a solo record, contributing to movie soundtracks, raising money for charity, and more importantly, starting a family, while the rest of the world wondered when Amy would get the band back together. 10 years later, amidst speculation that Evanescence would reform with new material, Amy Lee and the band are back with a brand new album called The Bitter Truth. It's an album that offers a slightly different lineup, but faithfully carries the same dramatic sound that fans have come to expect. This is my interview with Amy Lee of Evanescence on Backseas Musical Podcast.
How you doing?
I'm very, very good. Thank you very much for taking the time today. I assume you're probably a little busy.
I mean, it's just always nowadays, like home and work, it's all one big thing. But we got a lot to be excited about, so I'm all in. Thank you for taking the time.
Absolutely. So I spent the last couple of days diving into everything I could find about you and Evanescence and the new album, and I came across this one thing. I have to ask you about it right away. I'm on YouTube, and I stumble across a video of you in high school singing singing a duet with this kid. And first of all, I thought you mopped the floor with the kid, to be quite honest with you. And then I'm thinking, there's probably not a day that goes by in this kid's life over the last 20 years where he didn't tell the story about the duet he sang with Miss Amy Lee of Evanescence.
Oh, like from school, like from a school program or something.
From like a high school chorus or something.
So cute.
That kid.
I remember the guy. I don't remember the song.
I wasn't sure I could remember the song, but all I could think of is this must have been something that he has held on to for years.
I don't know. I wonder. I don't know. Like, it's such a funny thing. It's cool it's rare when you really run into somebody that you haven't seen since. And there have been times for me that I've run into people that sought out people that I loved, like from my past.
Right.
Thinking, this is going to be cool. Like, they're going to be like, oh my God, like I've been watching. And it's not always that way. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, cool. I'll check it out.
Well, because everybody's got that.
Like, damn it.
Everybody's got that story of that famous guy that they bumped into on the street or at a restaurant, and this guy, he finishes his part and he walks away so rejected. It's like he realized that he had just been crushed by.
No way. We were friends. We were in choir together. This is what I'm thinking of. His name is Philip.
He was
really, really nice.
He probably had nothing but tears on his way to the 31 Flavors that night.
You are sweet. But you are sweet and mean at the same time.
Oh, well,
that's okay.
Thank you. But as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, okay, well, here's an awkward high school kid who goes from singing in the high school chorus to 5 years later, you're a full blown rock star with 2 Grammys under her belt. And I'm thinking, how does someone go from being that awkward kid to all of a sudden having all this showmanship and theatrics and everything that Evanescence is really known for? It's only a 5-year gap.
Well, thank you. It's been an eternity now, and that stuff doesn't happen overnight. As far as just building your confidence and feeling like, okay, I know what I'm doing. When we took the photo shoot, that is the cover of Fallen, that was my 21st birthday. And when we were playing our first shows that first year or so, it was really this baptism by fire. I was afraid. Like, I sort of battled stage fright in that whatever video you saw.
Right.
I'm sure my heart was pounding. And it was just one of those things where I loved our music. I loved the band. I really believed in the music, and it took courage. It wasn't an easy thing, but, you know, the more you do it, the more you get up in front of a lot of people and it goes well, you know, you survive it. I don't know. You just sort of develop a thing where you're like, I can do this. You know, I've done it before. I can do it again. And I'd be lying if I said even now I don't get nerves getting up on stage sometime and feel like an awkward kid still. But I think that's good. It means you care if you mess up.
Yeah.
I do. I want every performance to be the best it could possibly be.
Well, you're not singing music that lends itself to someone who's second guessing themselves or has any any discernible stage fright. I mean, it's such big, powerful music that you're either you're
in or you're out.
Exactly. You're either 100% in, or everyone realizes, hey, maybe this isn't what we're paying for. But I mean, I think that's real true of a band like Evanescence.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So 18 years ago, the first album comes out. You sell 17 million records. Like I said, you win the 2 Grammys. You're just a small band out of Arkansas, and the next thing you know, like, you're the biggest band in the world all of a sudden. At the time, you're saying you're 20 years old. I mean, were you and the guys in the band even mentally prepared for what you were getting yourself into, or was it something otherworldly?
Definitely not. There's no way. And I think that everybody's experience is different. And truthfully, I think it's more impactful what's going on the inside and behind the scenes than what's going on outwardly. Because to perform and the lights and the music, like, if you're a musician, if you're a performer, if that's in you, you know, that's gonna work. That's gonna fly to a degree.
Yeah.
You just do your best and pour your whole heart into it. But who you are as a person and being mentally prepared and feeling stable and confident and supported by the people around you, those are all the things that I think can tear you apart and be the difference between making it and surviving for longer than the first splash or not. So this band and me, you know, my experience from the beginning has been a tumultuous journey and a fight a lot of the time, like a fight for the right, you know, and the fight for standing up for ourselves and for my band and for us to make the music that we want to make and do every detail the way that we want it to be. It's worth it. It's all been worth it. I couldn't be more proud of the men and women that I stand beside today when we are making this music and putting all of our hearts into it. And for our fans who have been with us for so long, and sometimes these really long gaps that we've come back to tour and didn't even have new music at the time. They're there. They're out there. They're all over the world. I feel so grateful and so happy. And if anybody's out there fighting for their right to make their art, keep fighting that fight. It's totally worth it.
Well, it's good to hear you say, though, that the expectations that you had, or that your expectations were far more important internally than any expectations that were coming in externally, because that's the kind of stuff that really gobbles up and destroys a lot of other bands, because the pressure to recreate 17 million records in sales it's just not an attainable expectation every single time you go out.
That's true, especially when, you know, the system changes so much, really just month to month, year to year in our time. Like, what does that even mean now? Like, to be able to quote and claim 17 million albums, that doesn't exist anymore. It doesn't work that way. They don't count it the same way. It's not like people are going to the record store and picking up a CD. That happens some, but it's so much less to a crazy degree than it was. People are streaming. It's different. So even the idea of, like, how can you measure up to your past when even the system of, like, how to count it is different.
Well, you know, when you come up with a new album, and I've heard the entire album now, The Bitter Truth, I think it's really, really cool. And the thing I like about it is, you know, oftentimes you see these bands get back together, they do a reunion. You guys haven't done any new music in about 10 years. And sometimes you get the sense that you're going through the motions, or, you know, there's something else motivating it. I don't get that sense when I'm hearing the record. I know that, you know, from a personal level, that's not the way you approach this record at all. And in fact, it's very, very personal. But when you're putting together a record like this after all this time, are those expectations still the same?
I don't know how to answer the expectations part, but it's where it comes from that you're talking about that is so true and so meaningful. To make music, for me, especially when it's with the band, it's got to be from a need, like a need to get something off my chest, like something inside, like there's music I want to make. There's something I have to say. And there are times when you don't feel like that, and times that you need to just like wait and live your life until you're at a place where you're like, okay, I got to do this. If it was like just going through the motions to make money, that's just not enough for me. I've got money. We made money the first time around. Every time we've come back to make more music, it has truly been for the love of the music, which is for me in this time on a level, on the inside of things that have happened in my life and in our band family over the past few years. We were really ready to make new music and to put a stamp in time of who we have become, because we're really proud of it and we've had a lot happen and a lot to say.
Right.
But then compounded with everything going on in the last year or two, just made that, it just stoked the fire in a major way. It just, there's just so much to express right now. And to be able to channel that and take that fire and make it into this heavy, beautiful album that we're all just really so proud of is, I don't know, it makes me feel like I know my purpose.
Isn't it also kind of satisfying to tell people to stop asking when the band is getting back together?
Yeah. Well, they don't usually say when you get back together, because I can always be like, dude, we played a show last night. Shut up. Pay attention. But it's usually, when are you guys going to make new music? Yes,
Right.
It feels so good to be like, check it out. I'll send you a vinyl. It's there. It's happening.
You mentioned the band family and what motivated you guys to get back and have something to say. And obviously, with the loss of your brother and Tim McCord had some tragedies in his family too, and to kind of get that out, whether it's emotionally getting it out or artistically getting out, there has to be something real satisfying about completing that. Like you with everything you say, like with COVID in the middle of it, in the middle of a pandemic, you completed something that you had to say, and it had to say it for a damn long time. That had to be unbelievably satisfying.
It is. It's so satisfying. And it's definitely, a process to go through it all. And that process is sometimes painful. But when you can take something painful or challenging and turn it into something good, something with insight, something with depth that can maybe, be a comfort to somebody else who's been in a hard situation too. It really is a healing, positive thing in a major way.
How much of the recording of this record did you guys have done before everything got shut down?
The 4 songs. We went in, let's see, January of 2020. At the end of the month, we went in with Nick Raskulinix. He produced our self-titled album as well. And we kind of reunited with him, and it was sort of experimental. It was like, let's just do 2 songs, because we'd just done the Chains for Gears 5 and had such a good experience and a unique experience making something that was just one song, not going in to do a batch of songs, not going in to do an album, just going in to do one song was really satisfying, because, you get to just focus on that one thing and your head's totally in that song. And, 2 weeks later it's done and you're listening to it. That felt so good. It was like, let's do that. Why don't we're going on tour in March. We thought we were, we didn't.
Right.
So why don't we just go in and do 2 songs and kind of do it in spurts instead of burning ourselves out like we usually do. And of course, we got in there and things were just really productive and creative. And the spark was so there that 2 songs turned into 4 songs. And we knew we wanted to do the whole album with Nick. But at the end of that session, right at the end, even where I recorded a couple of the background vocals at home and we were mixing remotely, that was when the pandemic hit and everything got shut down.
And then you're file sharing and sending stuff to each other.
Yeah.
And trying to. I'm so slow to answer my emails to begin with. I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine you relying on my Gmail account to get my work done.
I know. Well, we're not strangers to that. I've done, the engineering to demo our stuff, and we've worked remotely for a long time. We live all over the place, which honestly, in this time more than ever, I wish that we all lived on the same street and we could have just been in the same town and gone over to each other's houses and been playing music together the whole time. It was harder because of that. But with the exception of Jen, because she's in Germany, the rest of us were able to reunite last year and really just like hunker down and do the rest of the music together. So that was good.
You did take a sabbatical as a band for a pretty good long period of time. What led to that? Was it just you needed to get away from each other, or just start doing different things? I mean, I know you started a family, and I do want to ask you about that. But was there something that said we need to take a break from all this?
It's hard to sum that up. I go at every time we do something by giving it everything I have, and I always imagine that it could be the last time. I can't plan on, what we're going to have and what we're going to be inspired to do. And it's just not definable. So every time we get to the end of a record cycle, there's always a pause. The length of this one, there was some cleaning house to do behind the scenes as far as like people that we work with,
right.
The way that our system works and the people that, should be supporting us. I've had some major changes with our team, and they have been so positive. A lot more has felt possible in the last few years than it ever did before. The fact that we did that synthesis thing with full orchestra in 2017, I never thought that was possible before. New management just really opened my mind to how that could work, just literally as far as like, how do you afford to like take an entire orchestra on tour? And you don't, like they're awesome classical players, and you get a contractor and you get a conductor that you take, and, you bring in different musicians every day. You have to just be brave and confident enough as a musician on stage to know that every night you're going to have a whole different group of musicians playing the song together for the very first time in front of a live audience. Terrifying.
Yeah.
My 21-year-old self would have said, no, I can't. I'm terrified.
Well, there's a reason. There's a reason why not a lot of people take a full orchestra on the road with them. Just the sweat and the anxiety of getting all those people together and making sure everybody gets a check.
It was wonderful. I would do it again right now. It was total bucket list stuff. But it's also part of, what led us to where we are now. Like, it sort of solidified some of those things and the roots in us, because we were visiting our old music in a new way, in a way that isn't completely new. It's always been a part of who we were, but to be able to crack it open and let it change and let it grow and analyze different sides of it, just everybody become intimately familiar with a lot of our music in another way. And then to go out and be playing a bunch of rock shows after that with the old material as well, just sort of like set the foundation for, okay, we really know who we are in this space, in time, and the history is a part of that. Now let's take that and let it blossom into the next thing. So I feel like we were just really setting ourselves up to be ready to make this album now.
I mentioned a moment ago that you started a family in the middle of this break with your son Jack. He's 7 now? Almost 7?
Not quite. Don't push me. He's 6.5.
Okay.
He's almost 7. Oh, he's the sweetest.
But I'm a father of 3 daughters, and I know that it completely changes your life, and it
does.
And my definition has always been it's not that it changes your life, it's that moment when your life really begins. You flip a switch, and all of a sudden, holy cow, I'm a parent. Yeah. I'm a parent. I've got these responsibilities I've never thought I'd have. Tell me about how that's changed your perspective on your career.
That's hard to sum up. I mean,
I made sure all these questions were hard to answer.
Yeah, they are. It's the life questions. That's good, because that's what it is. But it opened my mind. I think the biggest thing for me that's related to my career was recognizing that I didn't turn into a completely different person after becoming a mom. It's not like, okay, now all my desires and all my focus is only on this and only on being a great mom. Like, part of being a great mom is being a great me. And making music is what I was born to do. And I want him to see that. I want him to be a part of that. I want to take him on awesome adventures where we go to other countries and taste weird food and like see the Eiffel Tower. And like, he's done that stuff, and he's 6. It's awesome. And he gets to sit on the side of the stage and see his mom rock out to thousands of screaming fans. and then run out at the end and like bow and accept the applause for himself. I mean, it's a dream, really.
So he understands what mom does for a living, right? He gets that.
Yeah, I don't know if he totally understands the scope of like how big of a deal that is, because he thinks everybody's like that. Like we see people on TV, and he's like, "Hey, will you call David Attenborough and tell him about? Can you get him on the phone? I want to tell him about my pet frog." And I'm like, well, it doesn't work exactly like that.
Because I know my kids are a little bit underimpressed with what I do for a living.
Oh, same, completely the same. This morning in the car, somebody asked me recently, like, does Jack like to listen through music? And I was like, no. I mean, sort of. Like, he likes to use my voice because he likes to do that and run around with a firework. But other than that, like, no. If I ever go, hey, you want to listen to some mommy's music? He's like, no, I want to hear Blinding Lights.
It's like with my kids, they want to listen to their own music and listen to other radio stations. I said, yeah, but Dad's paying for food on the table with this.
Just simply the fact that it's you kind of makes it not cool. My dad was a radio DJ for 30 years. He does voiceover commercials and stuff now. And I remember just thinking my dad was such a dork. I mean, the fact that he had like his voice on the radio and people kind of knew who he was just made it worse, just more embarrassing. He was always telling like stories about our family on the air. And I'd be like, Dad, you can't talk about us. That's so humiliating and embarrassing. And now I realize he's the coolest guy in the world. Give him time.
Oh, no,
He'll come around.
I know.
One day you'll be cool again, but not right now.
But not right now. All three of my kids are in their late teens. This is going to be a while before I'm cool again. I'm willing to wait for it. So the name of the new album is The Bitter Truth. It is a really, really good record, and it's really good to have Evanescence back. And it's a real pleasure to talk to you today. I appreciate the time.
You too. I appreciate it too. Thanks for spinning the record.
Absolutely. Thank you, Amy. Good to talk to you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
You too. Take care.
The name of the new album from Evanescence is called The Bitter Truth, and you can buy it or download it wherever you download or buy your music. Let me know what you think of the podcast. You can always email me at bax@rock102.com. I'd love to know what you think. Thanks for listening to Baxy's Musical Podcast.